Hello everybody, this is tips and information on buying a C4 Corvette. I'm going to give information and tips on how to find a good one and information on the Corvettes since the C4 started back in 1984 all the way until the 1996 Corvette. So here we go. So first we start off with the 1984 Corvette. This was the first C4 Corvette. It came with the L83 engine, which is known to not be a bad engine at all. But if you're looking for performance type C4, the 1984 is not for you. It comes as a 5.7 liter V8, as all C4s are, but it only comes with 205 horsepower and 290 pound-feet of torque. The acceleration really isn't all that great. You see the top speed of this is around 140 miles per hour. It does a quarter mile in 15.2 seconds at about 90 miles per hour. 0 to 60 is just about 7 seconds. It's by no means a fast car. My Toyota Tundra does that a little bit quicker. It's just the fact of its iconic car. The round taillights look great. The round taillights stuck around until 1992, but this the first generation C4 Corvette, the 1984. I personally don't recommend getting, but it is a great car, and if you can have a lot of fun in it, for sure. Next up, we get the Corvette from 1985 to 1991. This Corvette is a solid Corvette if you're looking for a C4 Corvette. It comes with the L89 engine. It's a 5.7 liter V8 like the L83, but it comes with bumps up in horsepower and torque. As you can see, it has from 85 to 86, 230 horsepower, 330 pound-feet of torque. From 87 to 89, 240 horsepower and 335 pound-feet of torque. And then from 90 to 91, it comes with 250 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque, which is a lot of torque in this engine. Top speed bumps up over 10 miles per hour above the L83 Corvette to 150 miles per hour. Quarter mile of 14.5 seconds at 100 miles per hour trap speed, and a 0 to 60 of 5.7 seconds. This is by no means a slow car, and if you're looking to have a fun car and you like the round taillights in the back of the C4, this is definitely the C4 for you. Now we're talking about the 1992 to 1996 Corvette. This is a Corvette I personally own. That picture of the blue Corvette and that engine bay I just showed you is actually my personal Corvette. These Corvettes are the facelift of the newer edge and newer age of the C4 Corvette. They have the square tail lights, they're a little bit smoother in the body. They look fantastic to me. If you're going to get a C4 Corvette, I do recommend these Corvettes. There are a couple cons to these compared to the other C4s, but we'll get to that at the end of the video. It's a 5.7 liter V8. It's powered by the LT1 engine. The LT1 makes 300 horsepower and 340 pound-feet of torque. The quarter mile on this is pretty quick, honestly, 13.5 seconds at 104 miles per hour, 0 to 60 at 5 seconds flat, and a top speed of 172 miles per hour. Now, in 1996, there was the LT1 in the automatic, but if it's in the manual, then it'll be the LT4, which is what we're going to be talking about later in the video. Now we're going to be talking about the 1996 Corvette with the manual transmission and the Grand Sport from 1996. This comes with a different engine, not the LT1, but the LT4, which is almost a mirror image of the LT1, but it comes with a little bit more power. It states from the factory it comes with 330 horsepower and the same amount of torque at 340. They had done dyno tests of this engine and it came back more around 310, 320 to the wheels. So it seems like it's making more so around 360 to 375 horsepower. This engine ain't no joke. If you do have the money, it's definitely a great and one of the best C4 Corvettes you can definitely get for the price. Now we're going to be talking about the C4 King, which is the 1990 to 1995 Corvette ZR1. These things are absolute monsters. They are different though. They're dual overhead cams, 4 valves a cylinder, total of 32 valves. They're kind of built like, a Mustang engine now is today, but Corvette did it first, and Chevy did it first. We have The initial ZR1 from 1990 to 1992, it came with 375 horsepower, and it came with 370 pound-feet of torque. Acceleration is the same as the 93 to 95 with 405 horsepower and 385 pound-feet of torque. These are fantastic cars, but the price is pretty up there. To find a good condition one with lower miles, it's anywhere between $20,000 to $35,000 for these cars. Definitely not a cheap car, and you definitely need to be looking for a pretty expensive area, but they are rare, and they do sound great, and they look great, and for a 12.8 second quarter mile from 1990 to 1995 is extremely impressive. So now I have given you information about all the generations of the C4 Corvette, and now I was here to talk about some of the cons. And the first thing you'll see pictured here is the OptiSpark. The OptiSpark is only used in the LT1 and LT4 Corvettes, so that is the one I actually recommended to you. The 1992 to 1996 Corvettes, the base model and the Grand Sport. The reason why the OptiSpark is a con is because you'll be replacing that thing a couple times in your ownership. Personally, with my 1994 C4 Corvette, I've had to replace it once. I've had it for about 4 to 5 months. They can last years or they can last months. Is it a hard fix? Not necessarily. It's just in the way of the water pump, which can leak onto the OptiSpark, which connects to the spark plugs and connects to the spark plug wires, which produce your spark in your car, which is important. For me, how I knew mine went out is when I was driving it, it would just shut off randomly, and I fixed it, and no problems ever since. That's one con of the LT1 and LT4 Corvettes. Now, the other con to the C4 Corvette of all of them is the overheating issue. They do have a tendency to overheat, whether that's the water temp or the engine oil temperature. These things are meant to run at a high engine oil temperature, but sometimes if you live in a hot place like I do in Las Vegas, those 110-degree summers, you have a hard time driving these things, and the engine oil temperature can go above 235, which starts getting dangerous for the car. You can easily fix this by buying a Duwitz radiator. That's another $500 to $600 out of your pocket. But if you have a good stock C4 that runs well, you shouldn't have a problem with overheating as long as the car is moving fairly often. It has a hard time when it's sitting in traffic when it gets overheating, but that's just another con of the car. But it's nothing terrible as long as you buy a good working C4 Corvette. Now, overall, you could find a good LT1, L89, and L83 Corvette for much less than $5,000. It's where you get to the LT4 and the LT5 ZR1 where they're going to cost you over $10,000, and the ZR1 well over $20,000. If you're looking for a fun sports car that runs with a lot of power and that can track and go in a straight line pretty quick, especially with some supporting mods, the LT1 Corvette's best for you. L89 does have some performance to it, but it really isn't meant to go fast in a straight line. Even with some supporting mods, most likely you're not going to have a fast car, and the L83, the same deal. Overall, there's not too much cons about this car, other than make sure you test drive it, make sure you go out, make sure this engine runs good. If the engine doesn't run good, do not buy the car. Unless you're just going to buy it to have a shell to put LS3, LS7, or whatever engine you're going to put in it. If you're looking to keep the car stock for a little bit, have some fun. Maybe put an exhaust on it, put some wheels and tires on it, lower it, new suspension, then make sure the engine's good. The engine I have right now on my Corvette has 162,000 miles, but it's been proven to have maintenance records, oil changes every 3,000 to 4,000 miles. It still has that power and torque. Make sure you take it on a test drive. And I'll say it again, make sure you take it on a test drive. Make sure this car runs good. You can feel horsepower and torque when a car runs good. Make sure it runs smooth. No ticking, no slapping, no knocking. That cannot be happening. Do not buy the car. A lot of these Corvettes are thrashed, but you can find them well under $5 grand for these cars. The C4 I'm showing you right now, I bought for $4,000 cash. The post was for $5,500, but people want to sell these things, they sell them. Offer them some money, and my tip to you, I've owned two C4 Corvettes. Do not put a cam in a 137,000 mile bottom end. That's how I blew up my C4 Corvette, the first one. This blue one runs great. I'm keeping it mostly stock, and I'm gonna mod it. I'll do a separate video on the mods. But make sure you go out there. Make sure the tires on the Corvette are actually brand new or within 6 years. If seller's trying to sell you old 10 plus year old tires, use that against it to get a better price for it. Luckily I bought mine on ZR1 rims with 2-year-old tires of Goodyears on those. Those things are awesome. They're great tires. 275s in the front and 315s in the back. Like I said, test drive it for at least a couple miles. Make sure, whether you want an auto or manual, that's your choice. Manual seems to be more often wanting to cost more money because people want it more. The automatic's not a terrible transmission to go for. It's your preference. Go get the car you want. After all this information, I hope you figured out more information about the C4 Corvette, and if you have any more questions, comment down below. Next video should be like my mods on my personal C4 Corvette, which you are seeing now. I'll do a little area in this video of the exhaust notes of the LT1 and my C4 Corvette, and I hope you figured out more of an idea of information of the Corvette, of the C4 Corvette anyway, and what you can decide. But all these cars I've showed you besides the LT4 and the LT501 are attainable under $5 grand. Just make sure that engine's solid, the transmission's solid, and you can fix up paint, you can fix up interior. Luckily with me, my paint and interior are absolutely perfect, and I'll have them pictured in here. If you did like the video, like it, comment, and subscribe. Thank you guys.